Welcome to the First 30 Podcast. Today we're playing the new turn-based tactical combat game by Harebrained Schemes, the Lamplighters League. Do turn-based strategy games still have a place in 2023? And does the real-time battle aspect of this game separate it enough from others of its genre? Well, let's find out. Thank you for listening to the First 30. I'm your host, Chad Callahan, and alongside me are the Lamplighters, who are actually gaslighters. Tim Harris.
Hello.
David Marino.
Hey.
And Rick Weirdbeard Hogerhide.
I am excited to be here tonight.
I'm excited to have you here tonight. I have a question, though, for you all. I like to open this show up a little bit because I was thinking today about something that I was talking with Kiefer, my boyfriend, about. And he had an easy answer, but I actually struggled with this. And it was a would you rather, right? Okay. And the would you rather is, would you rather only play your favorite game for the rest of your life or play a variety of games, but every game is simple with uninventive gameplay and phoned-in storylines? Tim, do you want to take...
game for the rest of my life?
Right, easy.
Yeah, I really don't feel like that's even a question. Like, I don't want to play a bunch of mediocre games if I can just play the game that I really, really want to play over and over again. Like,
You
the
wouldn't
games
get
that
bored
I like,
of it?
No, the games that I like, I go back to constantly, and I will play through them. I've played through Final Fantasy VII
I don't know
like
if I could do that.
probably 40 times in my lifetime.
You also have to remember that you're not discounting becoming a speedrunner of this game, where you absolutely
yeah.
break it and then mess it. Like, listen, I played a lot of Super Mario 64, but the moment that I start being like, ooh, those backwards long jumps to be able to do it in two stars, you can get some extra juice out of the squeeze that way.
Maybe get some money? I don't know.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great way to look at it.
I was going to say, I have, right now, according to Steam, I have 600 hours in Batman Arkham Knight. And I just play it normally each time. I don't try to do anything different or anything else. So, imagine stretching that over, okay, now I'm going to play it like this. And then I get 600 hours in that. Like, okay, now I'm going to play it like this. It's like, all right, 600 hours in that.
Yep.
I don't know how you guys could do it. I mean, outside of like games like Minecraft, because I feel like Minecraft lets you do whatever you want, and they it's literally like what they call the sandbox type games.
Yeah,
like those kind of give you that ability to do like billions of things over and over again. So I guess that makes it a little bit easier.
You can do that with any game, because let's look at, if I did Final Fantasy VII, I could be like, all right, this time I'm going to go through and I can only use the attack command. That's it. You know? Or I have to only use limit breaks, or I can't use, or I can only use summon, stuff like that. You could challenge yourself. The summon thing wouldn't work unless you put arbitrary rules.
240p.
I could play it on Potato, just like Doom or something like that. Interesting. Yeah. All right, I thought that would be a harder question, but you guys were like, nope, simple, easy. I don't know. I feel like I get bored with games too easily, and
that's like that button question where like you're rich or someone you don't know dies. It's like.
Just hit it a few more times while you're in there.
Yeah, it's just slap. Let's go. Come on, rag it up.
Oh, David, that just shows a lot about your character, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not mad at it.
Lord.
I don't even know about that button question, but anyways, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But I do want to quickly point out, Tim, can you show me your shirt?
Yeah, I can.
And Rick, can you show me your shirt?
Oh, you mean this shirt?
Yeah, that shirt. This wasn't coordinated, but just goes to show what great taste we have on this. And for those who are listening, Rick, do you want to tell us what you're wearing?
Oh, yeah. This is a show of one of the greatest animes of all time that also features the best tournament arc of any anime, the Dark Tournament.
Okay,
This is the main characters of Yu Yu Hakusho, which if you were growing up in the 90s, early 2000s and watched any Adult Swim late at night, you saw probably the Dark Tournament on there for the first time and were like, what the hell's going on? This is awesome!
Yeah.
Hell yeah! I remember that whole series, and I forget all the characters' names because it's been so long since I've seen him, but the guy with the red hair is always my favorite, with the rose, and he turns into a whip. What's his name?
Kurama.
Thank you.
And then this guy, the big, tall, beefy boy,
who's kind of a dick at the beginning, and then he's kind of a cool guy.
Kuwabara. So his American or his English voice actor also does the English dub of in My Hero Academia. He is
which character?
Take a guess.
I'm trying to remember what he sounds like in my head. All right. Does he play? I'm assuming he's older now. So is he? Oh shoot! What's the main?
All Might. Come on,
All
Chad.
Might. Thank you. God, I couldn't remember the guy's name. All Might.
I wasn't gonna let you do that to yourself where you threw out
Thank
a name
you.
that was not Shenron. Is that his name? I don't really know anymore.
Big scary blonde guy. That guy. I'm really bad. Okay, here's the thing about, and we can stop talking about this in a second. Here's the thing about My Hero that I have a problem with. There's too many characters, even though that's not a huge problem, but they all have crazy names, and I get that almost every anime has a lot of these types of things, but their names are extra crazy in My Hero, and it makes my brain hurt, especially because they have multiple names sometimes. Sometimes they have a superhero name, and then they have like their like human name.
Well,
or their normal
everyone
name.
has a civilian name and hero name.
I know, but that makes it even harder because, like, I always struggle with my favorite character, Todoroki, and I'm like, is it Todoroki or is it Toto? And I'm always like, I know his name, but I always panic and I can never like think of their names for some reason.
Chad, I'm never watching anime with you. That's all we've.
Don't bother because I won't
here.
remember. It'll be 90% being like, what's her name again? Who's that? Today, we're playing a turn-based tactical combat game full of misfits and character-driven adventures. This is Lamplighters League.
I never wanted to fight, but if I must fight, I will do it well.
Bait and tackle. Time to light 'em up!
You picked the wrong fight.
Let's mix things up a little, shall we?
You're going to help me save the world.
Y'all may want to start running.
Also, I want to give you a quick reminder that you can watch the full podcast on youtube.com/@first30podcast. But let's get into this a little bit real quick because, Tim, you're playing the game. Do you want to take us through a little bit of the story that we know so far of Lamplighters League?
Yeah, I can attempt. I did
Yeah,
I
it's
did
kinda hard.
skip some of the lore, and we didn't get super far, but essentially, you are playing as, like, these 1950s pop serial, ragtag crew of adventurers who is doing a mission at the behest of some old man whose name I can't remember, trying to figure out what's going down with this, what was her name? Some kind of
There's like
witch
scions.
priestess.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who is using people's entrails as a way to do rituals to do God knows what. Do not know.
It's like that the Indiana Jones, like there's a cult to it, but it's not like hard magic yet to where, like I'm a spellcaster and I'm casting a spell. It's like there's kind of, like soft magic rules that exist in the world, but mainly like you're shooting people with guns and punching them in the face.
Right.
Yeah, I like the mysticalness and the whimsy that it gives. It is exactly that. It is like Indiana Jones. Actually, you know what game this reminds me of? And I brought it up during the stream. This reminds me of Strange Brigade a lot as far as like the feel of it, even the quirkiness, the magic aspect. Because like your characters don't use. Well, I guess they do use a little magic in Strange Brigade, but
yeah, each one of them has a magic ability.
Got it. So
That's what the orbs fuel.
That's true.
The souls.
The
souls.
Great game for anyone who would like to play that one. There's a great game, multiplayer on that one. But there's a lot of that feeling in this game, that whimsy, the era, the even like all the kind of, I don't want to say it, like the Nazi-esque kind of feel of what they're trying to battle here.
Yeah.
It's very similar, and like I kind of love everything about it on this one. David, do you have any other examples of games that you think this is fit in, maybe whether it's the style or the types of gameplay?
Strange Brigade is the most of this style game that I can think of right now. It even has the like the narrator who hypes up the adventure, which is like the best part about that game. You're going through, and each level he's like, all right, this time, lad, let's go out and kill whatever that witch's name was.
Kill Hitler.
Talion and Chippy Ho, let's go, and like stuff like that. And I love him. He's great. But the other game that I can think of that has kind of this aesthetic, even the one, the lockpick, what was his name? Eddie, yeah. Eddie, yeah. He even looks a little bit like him. There's a platforming puzzle game called Hamilton's Great Adventure, and it's kind of got that like pop serial adventure vibe. There's no combat though. It's all running and jumping.
For people who don't know, what does pop serial mean? Like, I don't know if that's like a common term with most people.
It's probably not. It pretty much describes exactly this. It's like, it's the
that's what cool.
Thank you.
If you think about it, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. It's like proto Indiana Jones. Okay, it's all of the stuff from like the 20s and 30s that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg watched as kids, and then went on to make the things we're familiar with. It was all the stuff that inspired that.
Yeah, think of like an old school adventure series that has like that old-timey radio announcer, basically.
Yeah.
With the transatlantic accent,
yeah.
boys.
Exactly, yeah. That's like that is what this is based off of.
It's almost more like a stereotype of the time, kind of, is what you're kind of saying a little bit.
Kind of, yeah. It's because there was a bunch of like novels.
Or maybe a caricature is a better word than stereotype.
This is even slightly before comic books. Like, you'd have to go out and pick up an actual like short little novel that was that chapter in the story.
All
stuff
right.
like nobody's gonna know what this is, but stuff like the old Doc Savage adventures.
Nope.
That was the kind of stuff. That was the kind of stuff that they were referencing. Does anyone know who Buckaroo Banzai is?
You are saying words. Yeah. These are not real things
I'll
now.
Stop. But it's just like that stuff. Go ahead.
It's like
Google
Cucumber Jack. You haven't seen Cucumber Jack at all?
Google
I
those
love Cucumber
terms.
Jack. He turns into Pickle Joe.
You want to know something? It's that exact type of joke that is in Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You guys are already well informed.
We're great on that one. Oh my god, that's too funny. We also mentioned a little bit about XCOM when you were talking about it, Rick. What were you calling it? XCOM meets Indiana Jones? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like, I mean, essentially because you have characters that move around the map on an isometric grid. So like you have your little squares and they move in and out of cover. And then if you like want them to attack somebody, even if you're like punching them or shooting them, you choose an ability and then they have like a random dice roll. Like, hey, you have an 80% chance of this happening. Yeah. And it's the same thing as with XCOM, where even if it's like a 95% chance of happening, and you're standing in front of somebody, it can still just be like, oh, totally missed. Don't worry about it. Because that happened a few times on that final mission that we were going through.
It is always the worst feeling when you get like it's a 97% chance to hit, completely whiffs, and then you get smoked.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like, the XCOM vibes were high here. I think that the difference between this and XCOM is that XCOM, you just get randomly generated soldiers and like you build them up as you go along. And so like they're nobodies when you first get them, obviously, but by the end you kind of like emotionally attach them. Whereas in this game you have specific like, hey, this is Ingrid. She is this type of character. She does this thing. These are her movesets. And you don't get to customize her in the sense of like what her role is, but you get to customize them more as like, I want them to have this equipment or to carry this extra item or, we didn't really get to it, but we saw that they have skill trees, so you can build them out and like make a stealthy person who's pure stealth, or maybe they're like stealth ranged combat. I don't know exactly, but different from XCOM because you could literally take XCOM and just, oh, you're a sniper this time? JK, you are now a shotgun person and you're going to go in and die now.
That's one of the things I like about this a lot compared to XCOM is that the characters are much more like people that you're actually going to care about, and that I'm always a big fan of, extra story, extra character development. Go yay. That is the best way to go.
And they all have their own individual abilities, obviously. Like, that's something we've argued about before in games where like in XCOM it seems like anyone could do anything, and like is that really that big a deal? Like, it's kind of more annoying than anything. Where in this one, having everyone do a different ability. Like, what was the game we said? Marvel Midnight Sun?
Midnight Suns, yes.
It was very similar to this, where like obviously, Spider-Man has a different ability than Deadpool. Like, so you have to use them specifically, and that's exactly what they're doing in this game. Like Ingrid, first off, best character. She's the battle femme fatale.
Bruiser.
She's a bruiser, but she's like just beautiful. She's sleek, and then she just goes in, kicks down doors. I love it. I just love her character. And then we had Eddie, who is like this, who you think would be the bruiser, and he's like a he's like this big dude, but he like sneaks around and he lock picks and things like that. Who was the other one?
And he throws grenades. And then there's Latif, who is the sneak. He's the like thief archetype.
Yeah. And then we met the last one, which was, I think it was Nikki. We literally, right at the end when we caught up to it, was the captain.
I think he was just a battlefield character that like you could temporary ally, because when we went to the base, he did not have a skill tree.
Oh.
You only had 3 characters still to pick skills from. So I think he's like a temporary party member.
Yes, there was the allies button that was grayed out. He'll probably pop up in there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Like maybe you get him later or something like that, or like he's in the background.
Have him be a tag along.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can have a max of 4 characters at a time, is what it seems like. Which seems about right. I feel like that's most games, because even in Aliens Dark Descent, I think it was 4 characters in that one. Yeah. So like I feel like that's fairly common for this. But let's also talk about the graphics a bit, because even though this is a little bit like, I don't want to compare it too much to Strange Brigade, because this is a very different feel altogether when it comes to the graphics. Like I almost liken this to Pixar, like when I saw it. I don't know. Do David or Rick, do you have any other compares that you want to throw out there?
I mean, it's stylized more than anything. Like I think that I wouldn't compare it necessarily to one to something else, but like they definitely had a vibe in mind when they went to the artist and they're like, hey, can you make this? Like you're right, they do have like the big eye Pixar look, but it's not explicitly cartoony. Like you could definitely see it as something where humans still have like proportional bodies, unlike Pixar moms, that are just dragging a wagon behind.
Pixar loves a booty. I mean, I'm not mad, but I'm just saying.
I'm telling you that it is unfortunate how many young boys have had an awakening seeing a Pixar mom and just being like, I'm here for it.
I'm trying to think. There's also the Pixar dads. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but there's like, maybe not in your circles of Twitter, but in my circle of Twitter, there's a specific image of one of the Pixar dads. I want to say it's from, the Emotions one. I can't remember the name of it. Inside Out, where the dad from that's got the mustache, and for some reason, the gays just love that dad
I was
so
gonna
much.
Say, that's the only Pixar dad I can think of, because usually the homes are fairly. Oh yeah, I guess that's duh.
Yeah, like I mean, there's a handful. I do agree. Like they usually do the whole like either the mom and dad are both dead, or the dad's like disappeared. I feel like that's always the case in these types.
Chad, lightning round right now. Marry, bed, or kill.
Okay, thank you for that one.
Mr. Incredible, the dad from Inside Out, and Marlin, the fish from Finding Nemo.
Oh,
it's the only other dad I can think of. I'm sorry.
wait. I'm marrying Mr. Incredible because come on now, like just having a superhero for a husband, 100%. And then I'm betting the dad from Inside Out. I mean, I'm gonna live the dream that everyone wants. I'm sorry, Marlon.
Everyone's gonna be so jealous.
Maybe I won't kill Marlon. I'll just put him in a tank in like my living room or something. You know what I mean? I won't kill him.
That's against the rules.
Yeah, you just turned it into marry, bed, and kidnap is really what you
ended up. And then cook him up for my incredible husband. All right, how about that?
Yeah, there you go.
There, and he gets a delicious meal. Anyways, we also wanted to bring up really quick the music in this game.
Yes.
I think it's really good. So I'm gonna start there. I do have a weird feeling that it is a bit more fantasy than it is kind of action adventure, which I feel like this fits more in. I don't know. There was a couple parts where it was like, oh, like that. And I was just like, the feel was a bit off in my opinion, but I don't know. Tim, what do you think?
I think it felt great. I don't know that I necessarily think that the little operatic, more, I guess, orchestral moments were necessarily, like, fantasy-like. I feel like they were just a little bit more in-your-face action-type orchestras, in my opinion, and I felt like it fit just fine for this type of thing, but I don't know how everyone else feels about that. Like, fantasy, sure, but, like, I think it was a lot more reserved than what you would get in like a Final Fantasy game.
Well, the music on that final mission where we were trying to, because like set the stage, we were supposed to rescue a pilot and run to the end of a dock where an airplane is before these like overpowered characters come and just slaughter everybody.
Yeah.
And all of us were just like, oh my God, run. And that's usually a sign of good pacing and good music. So I feel even with the haws in it, that it still, I mean, it did the job, right? Like good music doesn't stand out. It kind of like just makes it better. It's the spice, I think.
It fits the vibe. Yeah, I'll agree. David, do you have any thoughts on it? Because I mean, maybe I'm the lone wolf on this one.
No, I think it's good. I get where you're coming from with the whole like fantasy-ish thing, especially since we were just in the city docks. Like maybe that becomes a little bit more appropriate once we open up to whatever mystical jungles or whatever we start exploring later on in the game. But I think the one complaint I have is that it's too bombastic. It's like it could use a little bit more dynamic inside of the mix, if only because, you know, it's this like big orchestral epic swells while you're like strategically going around the battlefield and, you know, like getting some hits in or whatever. And then, you know, the big operatic voices come in, the choir starts singing your hero's praises to the sky, and you missed that 60% shot across the map. It deflates the gameplay a little bit.
I feel the exact opposite on that though, because I feel like those moments are accentuated when the music's getting hype, and then you really feel it when you get that miss because everything is getting like more chaotic, especially in the tune that's playing in the background. And then it just hurts that much more because it's like, oh, the music's getting crazy. Oh no.
Well, I guess I can only give you that one because we could all agree to disagree on this one. But David, I hear you have a few tidbits to share with the class.
I do have a few. Only a few.
The
developer Harebrained Schemes, turn-based tactics seems to be their thing because they've also done the turn-based games BattleTech and Shadowrun.
Never heard of either.
I've heard of Shadowrun for sure.
Shadowrun is
Googling.
So good, and everyone who likes this kind of game should play it. I've not played BattleTech, but
is
it's
it the Shadowrun Dragonfall?
It's a trilogy.
They have a couple
There's
of
3
expansions.
Oh, okay.
But that's the game. We've talked about it already, mentioned it before, but I'm going to take this opportunity to once again plug Strange Brigade. Play Strange Brigade. It is so much fun.
Play with friends, specifically.
Play with friends. They've got a little campaign mode. They've got horde mode, which was a ton of fun, just like surviving waves after waves of enemies. So good. They have different characters that have different special abilities. So, you know, you can kind of pick who you want to play as. Once again, super fun. I did a little bit of Googling on what exactly a lamplighter is, and to the shock of no one, a lamplighter
lamps
is someone who would go around and light lamps during ye old oil lamp days.
You want to know how I knew this? Because in the Sleepy Hollow movie, one of the lamplighters dies. And he's one of the first characters that dies, I think, in that movie because
he's going to the end of the bridge.
Stick. Yeah. And he's putting out the lights or something. I can't remember. And then he gets his head whacked off. That's how I know.
Apparently, for some historical reasons, probably just to preserve the city's heritage or whatever. But London still employs a team of lamplighters to kind of go around the old parts of town and make sure everything's kept historically accurate.
Wouldn't you? I was gonna say, wouldn't you just call them electricians now?
Yeah, maybe.
No, they still keep oil lamps. They light them.
Oh, really? Like actual oil lamps.
Yep.
The only lamps we were lighting in this game were human beings. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And this last one's a minor tidbit, but it'll be more for Chad.
Oh.
This game is Steam Deck Verified.
Yeah.
So you can play it on the go, which these kind of like menu-based, turn-based RPG type games always do well on the Steam Deck, I feel like.
I was gonna say if it's able to be played on Xbox, it should be easily played on Steam. And now we're back with First 30, and now it's time for the meat and taters, the gameplay. We talked a little bit about it, but we're gonna get into the deep dive part of the gameplay. We're gonna talk about the objectives and how the game plays. Tim, do you want to take us through like the basic objective of how the game plays?
Okay, so basically the game will give you a minor objective to complete, and it may throw slight curveballs your way in the form of enemies. You can choose to navigate these situations via stealth or straight up combat. The stealth mechanics in this game are quite good. So that is definitely the way you should take it, because it's going to make things much easier for you. And basically, you're going to get your way through all of these, enemy areas where they're patrolling around and try to get to your objectives. Very, very A to B kind of gameplay, really.
Yeah, it's funny because I laugh because Tim says you should play it stealthily.
You should.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yes.
But it does make things easier. We'll get into that in a little bit. But quickly, I want to mention real quick that there are two different types of battle that you could do. There's like this kind of real-time side, and then there's a turn-based side, which is more of the XCOM-y kind of side that we were talking about. But Rick, you had some thoughts on the turn-based thing, but do you want to take us through like real-time versus turn-based and then get into that?
Yeah, so it starts that there is the two different kinds of combat. If you're doing any, like when you're on the open world, or not open world, when you're on the open map, because it's not like in XCOM, you would load into a map and you get like your square and that's your map, right? You find the enemies that are there and that's it. This is like there's enemies that are sprinkled throughout this large encompassing map. Because the one that we played was massive. Like it was, I think 5, maybe 6 different encounters with enemy groups that we found in there.
Yeah.
And while you're moving around the map and doing the stealth stuff, it's real time. So like you could send your stealth character up to a person and like and kill him, and stab him in the back with, stealthily and whatnot. And it doesn't go into your turn-based combat then if you successfully do it without anybody noticing. But the moment that you go loud, you can either select it, or if you're discovered by the guards or like whatever your enemies are or whatever, it flips into that turn-based mode, and that's when it's like, oh, movement now costs AP or action points, whereas before it's like you could just run back and forth as much as you wanted and do whatever. The moment you get into the turn-based combat, that's where everybody has limited like ranges that they can move. They have to use abilities for whatever they want to do, and it doesn't end until you kill everybody in that small area that's at least either like alerted or whatever the like the threshold is for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I like the mix, but the question I kind of have is that when you really dig into the meat and potatoes of it, there are very few games that are now doing any turn-based stuff. Like even Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy as a series has been away from turn-based games for, I don't know, a decade at this point. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, it's cool, but it feels like it might niche it down too much to people that, because again, one of the other games that we mentioned was the Mario vs. Rabbids series, which was a great series, and it's also one of the best-selling ones on the Switch platform, but that's really because it had Rabbids and Mario, like a really solid IPs inside of it. I don't know how many people are going to see a like turn-based combat sim game and they're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, sign me up for this.
Yeah, this kind of game I think appeals much, much more to, first off, people like me who thirst for turn-based combat, which I will never not like, everything like Baldur's Gate, old school Final Fantasy. Big fan of every type of turn-based combat for the most part. But it will also appeal to people who enjoy strategy games, which is a genre I feel doesn't get enough love anymore either, honestly.
Yeah.
so it definitely appealed to those two groups. I don't know that it's going to break through those barriers based on what I've played, but it'll
mean,
appeal.
I can see what you're saying. Like, I think there is a lack of strategy love out there. I do feel that. Like, I don't see too many StarCrafts or like things like that anymore. Or at least maybe they exist and I just don't see them because they're not as popular. But I don't know. I do see this huge influx of like the love for what I'm going to call the original strategy game, chess, which is played all the time. So I don't see strategy, this turn-based thing going away anytime soon. I think there's always going to be this subgroup of people who are going to keep it alive forever just because like they love it. And I think maybe we won't see the same things that we saw with like original Final Fantasies or I'm trying to think of another example off the top of my head, but my
Ogre Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics,
yeah,
all the tactics games.
All the tactics.
Ogre Tactics is a game that needs to be talked about more, and I'm glad you said that.
What is Ogre Tactics? Actually,
it's
I don't know
one of the
this
best
one.
tactic games ever made. That's all you need to know.
Is it like
essentially.
Is it ogre versus ogre, or is it just fighting ogres?
No, it's like a high fantasy. So think of like wizards, mages, ogres, goblins,
Warcraft kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, Chad, that's exactly what it is.
You gotta give me something. I'm a person who needs references. I told you this before.
Okay.
I'm a visual learner. I think there's always gonna be the subset. So I don't think that turn-based is going away, but I think I'm like we saw the Sea of Stars. Like that was another one that did a pretty good job at like transforming the turn-based feel and not going away from it, but like adding to it. I think we're gonna just see more of that.
Yeah.
Even this kind of added to the typical like XCOM style where it's like it reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy where you're walking around the world and then a battle happens. I like that better than just being plopped in a world like League of Legends and then just go. I always struggled with that kind of mentality of just like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. Despite me always arguing how the game should just go immediately into the action. If it's too fast, I don't like it. There's a medium. There's a middle ground there somewhere. So I don't know. David, do you have any thoughts on it? I know you're not turn-based lover, but what are your thoughts?
I'm not big into turn-based. I think that's why I started liking Dark Descent just because it was more real time. Like it was slow tactical. You needed to plan out what you needed to do, but I didn't need to wait for the aliens to take their turn. I could kind of react in real time. Mm-hmm. And I think, the publisher for this is Paradox, and they've definitely got their little niche carved out of this type of game and like the 4X stuff.
What have they done before, publisher-wise?
Paradox? I don't know anything off the top of my head, but they are big into this type of game.
Oh, okay.
And I know them as being big into this type of game. I just don't, I don't usually play.
You just don't play them.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Paradox does a lot of grand strategy stuff.
Yeah, and I think this type of game is always going to be fighting over a niche of like the people who like strategy, the people who like turn-based stuff. Yeah. And I think this game will do well within that niche, but yeah, I don't see this crossing over and kind of like having large, broad appeal, even though it is on, it's on Game Pass, it's free to check out. People might jump in, but I don't see this breaking out and becoming like a big, massive hit outside of its kind of regular player base. I'm sure the people who do like this type of game, are going to love this game. Yeah. But I don't see it kind of doing more outside of like the normal gaming scene.
It's not going to break the Fortnite child into the sphere.
No, even people like me, I look at this game, I was like, oh, I like the real time stealth, and then it breaks into the turn based. I've played Mario and Rabbids, didn't finish it because I kind of always fall off of these type of games, but I don't know what it is about turn based exactly, but there's always something where it's like, okay, I've just had enough.
I mean, that's fair. These games like this have been an on-ramp for me to get into things like Crusader Kings, so like I feel like people who pick up something like this might jump that, particular shark. We'll see. I don't know.
Now, Chad, the other thing I wanted to know from you is the characters do, we also did kind of mention this, that they have their individual roles, right? To where you have somebody who's throwing ordinances, you have a stealthy, and then like a brawler that goes in and just punches everything. Do you feel like that was a welcome mechanic? Like, did you wish that you would be able to kind of customize that more, or did it look like, hey, you're given here's your play characters, like your minifigs, and that's the group that you have? Did you want more customization, or did it feel like good to just be told, hey, this is Ingrid, this is what she does?
I think if you were to give me one character and that was like, okay, go traverse this entire level with just one character, I'd be like, kind of irked that I'd have to pick like one character with one specific set of skills and then asked to go through it. It's like in Dead by Daylight where I don't care for that, or I like the fact that Dead by Daylight lets me choose whatever skills I want on my favorite character, who is Kate. It's Kate Main, by the way. And so I could just go play as her. I don't have to touch any other character. But the fact that this has, up to 4 characters and I can transfer between them, that's fine. Like, it's like almost any other Final Fantasy that I've ever played before where they have their special abilities and things like that. It's fine because I can switch between. So that doesn't irk me too much. I think, again, if it was like one-on-one, yeah, I would. But no, I think I'm good on this one. But I don't know. What do you think? Does it irk you at all, Rick? I know that you're sometimes kind of that person.
I felt fine. I think, like, we would have had to play more. This is a question I think that I really would be able to answer 10 hours in when I'm like, oh my God, well, they gave you 1 stealth character and 12 brawlers. Like, this is Garbo. I think for what it was for playing like the first mission or two, I don't know how to exactly describe how far we got. We got past the first like large denouement moment. But like for where it was, it felt good. But I don't want to like wholeheartedly commit to being like, yeah, it felt great all the way through the game of all 20. Do we even know how? Hold on, we're gonna see how long this game takes.
There's a lot. There are a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Are there? How many characters? I wonder.
Don't know.
Let's take a quick look. Because like I like the idea that I can choose my crew though. And I get what you're saying a little bit, Rick, but I actually love when I get a ton of different characters I can choose from, like a little bit like a Genshin Impact, a little bit where it's like it's almost obnoxious how many characters you can get and how many different abilities that they have and stuff like that. I love that a little bit.
One of the things that I got while I was playing this is like, you might not necessarily like that you can't fully customize each character, but there are going to be more that come. We know this. But at the same time, they give you enough options, in my opinion, when you're in that little real-time mode, when you're trying to stealth around. They give you enough options to keep it fresh, because you can choose to play, I'm going to try and knock everyone out with my stealthy guy, but you could also just choose to bash their face with your enforcer, or you can try to lure them out with your, explosive mine, and then if anyone's left from that, you could send in your stealth guy to finish the job, or you could just go straight to turn-based mode and, clobbering time, whatever you want to do. And I like the fact that you could have all those options. Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a thing that says that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Chad, come on. Like,
am I wrong?
No, you're right, but it's it's like ending with a question mark.
It was the second guess.
Like, I don't know
if
this is okay.
I don't trust my Marvel instincts, okay? I rely on everyone else to give me pop culture references when it comes to like Marvel, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't pay attention.
So while looking at the some of the reviews on this game, I learned one interesting fact. Apparently, the maps are partially procedurally generated. So
what's that mean?
So like they have there's certain things that have to be included on certain maps. Like, okay, the dock scene at the end that we played, right? That's particularly generated. Like, it's supposed to be there. But it'll say, hey, you need to have that big tower thing that's in the middle, but where the boxes are placed may go differently. Or like, hey, the oil can may spawn over here instead of over here when you play through it.
I wonder if that means also like because they patrol a little bit, like when they're walking around. I wonder if that changes their course of movements as well.
Oh,
Most
yeah, I'm
likely.
sure it would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
which that gives a little bit of like replayability, in my opinion, especially like in games like this when you like the focus is strategy and the strategy changes each time. I mean, at least for those who love the strategy element.
Yeah, some of the only other kind of like nitpicky feedback I would have is the abilities sometimes felt like they worked a little wonky. Like they felt good for the most part, but I could see where they would be like, oh, I thought that was supposed to hit this person or have this particular interaction or whatever like that. So I don't know. It felt like there was enough meat on the bone for me to be pleased with this, but I really think that like a game like this shows its wear, like I said, 10, 15 hours in, and that's when people are really going to be like, is this worth going all the way through, or was the 10 hours like what I wanted?
Will it be the David
That's
drop-off point?
Yeah.
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 I do have one
Real
gripe.
quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Before the gripes, it looks like there are 11 agents.
Okay, that's
11.
quite a few.
God.
That's quite a
and-
few.
And also, I did find out what other games Paradox does, and the two big ones is City Skylines and Bloodlines, Vampire Masquerade. So those are two.
What
the
a
big
category.
Well, they have
just
others,
from
but
here
I
to
didn't
here.
recognize the names. So.
Oh no, you're gonna tell me one that's on there, and I'm gonna be.
I
like,
mean, there's
what?
one that's coming up soon called Foundry. That's coming during Next Fest. I'm
Chad, scroll
sure.
the list real quick. Find one of their back catalog games. And just say the name.
All right. Well, there's Hearts of Iron 4.
Oh no, no one knows that game.
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Oh
I've
no,
never
it's
heard
a
that in my
grand
life.
strategy game. Yeah,
I
Do
knew
you
it.
know
It
what
could
that
have
is,
picked
David?
anyone. No, I've never heard of it before.
Oh, okay.
But I knew we were going to get that reaction out of Tim.
okay, yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were making
Oh
fun
my
of me
God.
or Tim. I was
No,
hard
no,
to,
they're-
hard
No, I
pressed.
was
Their
I was
grand
setting that
strategy
up.
lineup is so good, and all of the grand strategy games are what make strategy people happy. Okay, but my gripe with this game, there's one thing that drives me crazy, and it's that the cover-based mechanics of the game are great. They're cool. You know, you get near a box, it'll tell you whether you're in full cover or half cover, right? But it's kind of tied to the way your camera's angled in this, as opposed to most games where I can just like click my spot and know. If your camera's not angled correctly, it won't tell you if the spot you're trying to go to is cover or not, and that drives me crazy. I wish it would just pop up, and I understand that it's probably just because like they don't want a bunch of stuff popping up on the screen all the time, but if I'm on a space, only that space pops up. So why do I have to twist my camera around to see if it's going to be cover or
Yeah.
not? That drives me crazy. Like, that is the one
even 'cause
major gripe I have.
Yeah, the way it's set up right now is the icon for half or full cover like attaches itself to the surface. So if the camera's pointed and you're looking basically parallel on edge with the edge of the surface you're trying to cover against, or to look and see if you can cover against, the icon is edge on as well, and it doesn't show.
Yeah.
You have to rotate the camera in order to look at that surface instead of like the icon's kind of always facing you.
Yeah, I don't love that. That drives me crazy. Show it to me through the box, please, for the love of God. It's okay. But it's the only major gripe.
I mean, I want to give this game a couple things that I think are notably good. And the major one I want to talk about is the fact that there's a couple moments where you could see what the game wanted you to do, and it was very obvious, and I like when they do that. Like, for example, the shock grenade in the water. Like, we saw water, we saw a guy have shock grenade. We're like, 2 and 2 equal 4, and it did exactly what you wanted to do. And I was really happy to see stuff like that. Same thing with the oil and the fire. Like, they told you that one at least, but like, we figured out the shock grenade thing before they had to tell us about it. You know what I mean? So I really love seeing stuff in games where, like, again, intuitiveness and things like that, where like they just like let the player do what they want to do, and it's pretty fun and obvious.
Well, you came close to one of my gripes, actually, in that the oils and the like kind of map hazards, they are cool, but it feels like you had to go out of your way to be like, I'm gonna just do that. Like, instead of like, your abilities were good and you can just they feel like that unless they just perfectly line up for what you were already planning on doing, that there's no reason that I would build a strategy around like, I'm going to lure somebody into that oil to explode it. Like, it just would have to be there.
I don't know if it was necessarily to damage them. I think a lot of those spots that I noticed that the oil was in where the fire could be was to prevent them from going that way.
Well, I can
and that's
tell
my
you
assumption.
That I had that thought as well until the very last map, the last map, because there was just an oil spot that was sitting off kind of in the middle towards the dock.
Yeah.
Didn't block anything. And no one was walking past that spot. So maybe when you're trying to escape, they might walk into it and be in the range of the explosion, but it was useless outside of that.
Yeah.
Like completely.
Oh, I was trying to wonder if maybe that you could use it as like a chokehold point or like to, force them to go around something.
You definitely could if they were placed correctly, but that's part of the issue with procedurally generated stuff is it's not always going to place things in a manner that makes sense. So if that wasn't set there on purpose, it's probably just the computer going, we need a map hazard here. But
gotcha.
It could be used as a choke point if someone actually just placed it,
If I see what you're saying. So it's kind of a detriment to a little bit to the procedurally generated part of it.
Yeah, if that is the case. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, that's kind of fun because you could prevent people from going through this area and then they can only come from the front. I can see that being useful, but if that doesn't really do anything, then I guess
you could definitely do it if it lines up properly, but it did not.
I think I had a gripe too, which my biggest one was the fact that you can only, and I get it, and I get why they're doing this, but I hate stuff like this. You only can have one item per character, so it's not like you can have one character has bandages and then they can also have a grenade and one item of each thing. They can only carry one.
You can
thing.
up that.
You can later in the game.
Yeah, they had in the skill tree.
Oh, thank God.
There was 1 unlocked and then 2 were locked. So it looks like you can have max 3 items in the pocket.
Oh, I guess I'm okay with that if you could up it. But I don't know. I just like the idea of it being more like I'm thinking of Left 4 Dead, where it's you could have 1 heal item, you can have 1 grenade, and you can have 1 this. I like that.
So you have slot types.
Yeah, slot types a little bit better. I could see that being. I
agree with that. I'm with Chad on this.
Yes, thank you. I thought you were going to disagree. Your face.
Prefer the just having limited slots because I don't necessarily want to use each of my characters as the healer and the explosives guy and all this. So I could set it up to where, I know I'm going to be using this character in a support role, so they're my healer. Whereas this guy I know I'm going to be using on the front lines, so he's got all my nades, That I like that more personally, but
I guess. I mean, and that might just be the way I play versus the way you play. It kind of gripe, so maybe, I don't know. David, do you have any additional gripes you want to add to this?
Yeah, one kind of real quick. The action cam is bad, and they should fix it.
It is bad. It is bad. Yeah.
Well, two. It's uniquely bad in 2 ways. One is it was constantly getting stuck in stuff and looking through geometry or clipping into the map as it was trying to show you whatever action was going on. And they should be able to fix that one relatively quickly. If the system is dynamic enough, they can just kind of reprogram some parameters. The other one that I'm not entirely sure is even if it's I'm not entirely sure if it's an actual problem or not, or something with the stream we were watching on. It looks like the action cam keeps the overhead cam focus and depth of field settings. So whenever it goes to an action shot, everything's super blurry. It looks like you zoom, it zooms in. It almost looks like one of those tilt shifted miniatures. It's just
it's like they're trying to force a field of view.
Like someone smeared Vaseline on the lens. It was super soft and almost had that halo effect. But yeah, that just looked awful. Whenever the camera didn't glitch into something, it looked bad.
That's fair enough. Well, with that in mind, we're going to move on to the final say and find out if we will continue the Lamplighters League. And now it's time for the final say of the first 30. Will we continue the Lamplighters League? And since Tim played the game, he will be going last. So we'll start with Rick on this one. Rick, the Lamplighters League, would you continue?
I would give it a shot to continue. I'm not saying that I would 100% complete it, that I would go full bore, because XCOM even took me a few times to crack it. I would get in and then get into such a I'd be behind on resources and you just feel like overwhelmed because you didn't know what you were doing it. So I may fall prey to like getting halfway, 3/4 of the way through a playthrough and give up. But I feel like if I were to come back and do it a second time, knowing everything from the beginning, that I would probably complete it. So yeah, I'd definitely complete, or sorry, not complete, but at least continue this game.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go next and save David because I'm actually curious what he's gonna say. So I want to save David for second to last. But would I continue Lamplighters League? I think I would, and the only reason I will is for exactly what David said in his tidbit. Is Steam Deck verified, and I think I would enjoy this game much more just chilling on the couch. Like, I'm not gonna sit on my computer and play this game. I feel like it's gonna be a big thing for me in a lot of these. Like, if a Steam Deck verified, I might play it. But honestly, that alone is definitely one of them, and the fact that it is available in Game Pass. So like, I know that's not necessarily a Steam thing, but the fact that you could play it and not spend the $49.99 on this game, and I could just play it like casually, test it out a little bit more, see how I feel about it. Yeah, I'll continue it. Like, it is definitely worth that continue in my eyes. David, I'm curious because this is a little bit like Dark Descent, and you continued that one. So would you continue?
I'm fairly torn on this one. I really like the stealth. That looks like a lot of fun. And then kind of instead of those things where it's like, oh, you failed the stealth, start again and like try something else. It just drops you into full-on combat, which is the turn-based stuff. But at the same time, not a big fan of that turn-based stuff. I hate, and I hated it in Fallout 3, and I hated it in Mario plus Rabbids, which is like even more direct comparison to this. Those like hit percentages.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm standing on the other side of a box to some guy and he's close enough to kiss my gun barrel, I don't care how high or like how little below 100% that is, it should not miss.
Come here, let me give you a little kiss.
Like, yeah, there should be an area around your character that just drops the percentage. It's like, are you like this close to a guy? You're gonna hit him. It's fine. I don't know if we've talked about it before. I think I mentioned it before when we were talking about this. I did not finish Aliens Dark Descent. This is one of those things where I just like fell off of it. I don't think I'm going to bother with this one.
Okay.
I will not continue the Lamplighters League.
Didn't catch your attention enough. All right.
I felt that.
Wow. I was on the fence. I was like, David might turn around on this one. All right, Tim, man of the hour, Lamplighters League. Would you continue?
Yes, I would continue the Lamplighters League. I'm a huge fan of strategy games. I love real-time combat, all the things that David hates. Big fan. So all of that I can sing nothing but praises about. It felt great, and then it did the thing that I love in every strategy game, which is it made me feel like I was constantly on the edge of my seat, especially in that final battle, because...
Can we talk about that final battle for a hot second?
Battle was...
I thought I was going to get wrecked for a few minutes there, and it always feels real good when you manage to pull it out. Like, I love that feeling so.
Because there was so many times. Well, first off, there's this level 10 character that just whooped your butt.
Yeah.
Anytime, and one thing about her, and we didn't talk about this at all, is that if you get near her, like, so if a character's walking past, she swipes at you. So she takes like a 10 or 20 damage off of your character, which like threw me for a loop because that was the only time we've ever seen that. So that was an extra little thing. But yeah, Tim, I couldn't believe you made that.
Because I guess she was kind of just like a timed map hazard. She wasn't active right away. And when she became active, she had that attack that just like flooded the entire map with gas. Instantly, just like.
And I'm glad you weren't near her.
Cloud.
Yeah. Fart cloud.
Yeah.
Just crop dusted us and took off. She really did.
That's the short. Take that clip when she becomes active and just put the reverb fart over that. Fantastic.
It's a great idea. But yeah, I mean, it was great. I really, really like the fact that I get to upgrade my characters. I don't feel like there's going to be permadeath in this game like there is in XCOM, since everyone's like a main character. Probably going to be a requirement that they live, I'm guessing. So there's a lot going on here that I really, really like, and it just feels real good. And I liked it, and I want to play more of it, and it brought me in. So this is 100% a continue from me. If you can get this on Game Pass, try it out. If you don't think you'd like this kind of game, you get to play it for free. So just give it a shot, because you never know. You might really like the feelings that this kind of game elicits.
And if you want to try this game for yourself, it is $49.99. But if you want to just test it out, I would suggest maybe getting Game Pass for the $10. Just for like the try it out, because this is a game that might not be for everyone. I do want to throw that out there. It's one of those things like David mentioned. It's like he doesn't feel like he would finish it, so it's like he's not going to continue. So I feel like that might be a few people on this one. But it is available on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Steam Deck verified, and is available on Game Pass, as we said. And thank you for listening to The First 30. And if you'd like to hear more insanity and see our beautiful faces, you could go to youtube.com/@First30Podcast.